Hey, it's Kara, your host. I'm here today because I'm often asked, what should I read next? Or what is your all time favorite book? And that is why I created this list. This list isn't a declaration of the greatest books of all time. Rather, it's a collection of the stories I can't stop thinking about, the ones I've recommended more times than I can count, and that continue to live rent free in my head. Whether you're looking for your next unforgettable read, or just want to see what books have shaped my reading life, I hope this guide of 25 books inspires you to discover a new favorite. Head on over to the link in the show notes or to bookishflights.com/read/25 books. Hi, I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights. In each episode, I chat with one bookish guest as we take some time to sample and savor the pairing recommendations from their bookish flight. We hope to give you suggestions to cultivate your TBR list and nurture your leisure time through books. In today's episode, I am chatting with Scott Gould. Scott is the author of the new novel, Peace Like a River. Scott is the author of 5 additional books, including The Hammerhead Chronicles, winner of the Eric Hoffer Award for Fiction, and Things That Crash, Things That Fly, which won a 2022 Memoir Prize for Books. His other honors include a Next Generation Indie Book Award, an IPPY Award for Fiction, the Larry Brown Short Story Award, and the South Carolina Arts Commission Artist Fellowship in Prose. He lives in Sans Souci, South Carolina, and recently retired from the South Carolina Governor's School for Arts and Humanities. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to have you, and congratulations on your recent retirement.
I
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. I was at the governor's school for 21 years teaching creative writing. So it doesn't feel that different right now because I'm normally not teaching in the summer, but
True.
next fall it's gonna be a weird sort of transition, I think. But I'm excited. Gives me more time to write and read.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you're not fully retired because I'm assuming you're still going to be in this writing life as well.
Yeah, yeah. People say, well, what are you gonna do now that you're retired? I'm like, I'm gonna crank up. Normally I write in the summers and I write every day in the summer, but then I have to shut it down come the end of July when August hits and kids
Yeah.
come back to the school. So now I'll be able to just keep it going all year. So that's yeah, gonna do the work. Got to do the
Yeah.
work.
Well, I'm excited to see what this does for you.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So, well, for listeners that might not have met you yet, tell us. I feel like we're so much more than our bios. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in South Carolina, and I still live here. Um, I grew up in the lower part of the state toward the coast. It's called the Lowcountry,
Okay.
and that's where this book is set in that area, and it's actually set in the town where I grew up, Kingstree.
Okay. I
And
love that bit.
I went to school, a little small college here in the state. Played basketball, and went to grad school. Wanted to be a poet. Studied with James Dickey, who's a fairly famous
Yeah.
poet, and but realized real quick that I wasn't going to be a poet, and started started writing fiction. Um, and my father was a forester, so I was out in the swamps and the woods a lot with him, and my mom was a nurse. I've got a dog, got a cat. That's but it's people think that you because you're still in the state where you're born and raised, you haven't seen the world. But I've traveled a lot. I get out of the borders. I leave the state every once in a while.
Well,
But
I love we haven't quite talked about Peace Like a River yet, but I felt like I got to travel to South Carolina through this
oh,
book. And I
good.
haven't spent much time there. I have been there once. But I love that, you don't always have time to travel, to your point, but I love that you can do it through the page as
Oh
well.
yeah. Oh yeah. And this, you know, I mean, that's one of the jobs you have to have as a writer is to create that world. You have to build a world, and and I think we have. Um, I think every writer, whether they will admit it or not, has a comfort zone in a place.
Yeah.
When they get in trouble, when they get, in literary trouble,
Sure.
when they need a setting, they go, I'm going to go to that comfort zone. And for me, that's the Low Country. I grew up there. I was there from birth to age, what's eighth grade? It's like 13, 14 years old.
Sure.
And, those are important years when you're growing up. And I always tend to go back there.
And I could see where that would happen, right? Like this is where you were raised, this is where you grew up, and it's just in your bones at that point, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, it is. And it's funny, I haven't lived there in years and decades, but every time I go back there to visit, which is not that often, but when I go back, when I hit a certain area outside of town and you start driving into town and you start feeling a different way. And
Yeah.
and my accent changes when I get there because it's weird because there's a very, very thick sort of southern low country accent, very distinctive. And I don't talk like that now, but
Yeah.
I get there and house becomes house, and that kind of thing. It's uh you feel yourself going back. It's like this weird time travel that happens and you go backwards and you're back in that place. But I like to write about that because I'm comfortable there.
Yeah.
um and I know there's that whole writing cliche about write what you know, but um, my spin on that is you write what you know well enough to lie about. So I know that place so well that I can tell lies about it, and that's where a story comes from.
Yeah.
Is making that stuff up. So
Yeah. Weaving in the fictional part.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, let's not keep listeners on their seat any edge of their seat any longer. Let's tell them about Peace Like a River.
yeah. Peace Like a River is it's a book about a man. He's in his 60s, and he's been estranged from his father and from this town in the Low Country for 15 years. And he gets word that his father is dying, so he goes back and he returns to that place where there's been, there was some traumatic things that happened in his when he was a young man that caused him to leave. He brings his 13-year-old son with him, um, and who's never met the grandfather, and they go back, and this is a son he had very late in life, result of a one night stand with a very much younger woman, and he only sees this kid every 3 or 4 weekends, and then a couple of weeks in the summer. So they go back, and so the book is kind of about how these three generations of fathers and sons orbit each other during this time. Takes place over the course of a few days, um, and it. I was really kind of just thinking I would just examine what it's like to bring these three generations together. And the other thing that might be interesting, I don't know, it was um, this book is actually, and I haven't really talked about this that much with
Yeah.
anybody. This book is a sequel. Um,
Oh, okay. I'm excited.
that I well, I wrote a collection of stories that was published in 2017 or so, called Strangers to Temptation, and it's a
Okay.
linked collection of stories, and it's all about this 13-year-old kid who's living in King Street in the 70s.
Okay.
And it's all set in the 70s. And it's linked, like I said, so you got recurring characters. They come back, and, there's characters throughout the book. And so I finished it, and I was really happy with it. And it, like I said, set in the 70s in this little town. And I was thinking about a project years after that. And I thought, I wonder what would happen if this 13-year-old kid came back as an older man to that town and dealt with some of these characters and some of these things that he had to deal with in these stories. But he's an older man now. It's in the 2000s.
Yeah.
He's in his 60s. So that's, yeah. So the challenge was to write a novel that echoed those stories, but make it stand alone. Like it was. I like to do that. I like to set kind of challenges. I like to sit down when I start a project and say, okay, this is what's going to, this is the sandbox you got to play in right now.
Yeah, as if writing a novel isn't hard enough.
Yeah, yeah. But I know I like that. I mean, like the previous novel, that Hammerhead Chronicles, I said I want to have multiple narrators. So there's
Sure.
seven or eight different narrators in that book, and and so it's it helps you with structure sometimes maybe, but this was like so for people that read the collection of stories, those the 12 people in the world that read it. No, I'm just kidding. There's more than that. But the for those people, it would be it would be an added value to it. They would know that would extend the story. It would actually become kind of one story.
Yeah.
But for people that haven't read the stories, it has to stand alone as a novel on its own. So you don't have to know the stories to hopefully enjoy the novel.
Yeah, well, if listeners like me,
Yeah.
can I go find these stories so I can go add
Yeah.
to the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's available. Yeah, they're
Okay.
still,
All
yeah,
right,
anywhere you get books, they're like bookshop.org or something like that.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
They're
include the link in the show notes for sure because
okay.
I'm like, oh,
Thanks.
I want to know more of this story. So
Yeah.
I loved this book. I
Well, thanks.
thought all the characters were so unique and so uniquely different that there were some heavier topics in there, but you brought humor to the situation and I loved it. So it didn't feel like this overall like, like you said, the father's at the end of his life. That could be a really sad topic, but you did it in such a way that I was laughing my way through the pages as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I tend to do that. I think there's now, if I guess I'm at an age and with enough books behind me to go, yeah, that's kind of what I do. I don't mind taking a situation that does have some weight to it, some emotional weight, but there may be there might be some humor there that blunts that. There may be some, and it always comes out of character.
Yeah.
I'm not interested really in writing characters that are carrying the weight of the world on their backs. I like characters who have an edge in that they're different. They're a little bit something's unique about them. And to me, it's fun to write those characters. But everybody's different. Everybody's got to find their wheelhouse and the things they do well, and I hopefully do that well. I like having the humor in there. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I also think that we could, as I'm reading these characters, like I could picture someone in my life that I knew, like the grandfather,
yeah,
It's like, I think you did it so well and so descriptively. It's like can all find someone in our life that maybe, okay, we kind of know that character a little bit.
yeah. I mean, this, that's an interesting thing that you have to do when you're writing is there are uh there's stereotypes and there are cliches, but can you spin them enough to where they become unique? So
Yeah.
somebody like that, but they're not exactly like this
No.
guy who's you know escaped from the hospital and is sitting there in his hospital gown with his Texaco hat on and his shades watching the river run. I mean, but we do have that. We all kind of have that relative who's at Thanksgiving might get a little strange for us or something. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Push the boundaries a little bit.
yeah.
So, well, what is your wish for readers when they pick up Peace Like a River? What do you hope they'll take away?
I I I really and I'm that's a great question. And the answer for me is really I don't think about that.
Yeah.
I think my job, I truly believe in the sort of the unwritten, unspoken contract between me and the reader. In that, if you're going to invest your time and your money with this book, I I better bring it. I better have interesting characters and an interesting story,
Yeah.
and characters that create the story are everything to me. And I don't, um, I had a teacher way back in grad school, William Price Fox and Bill Fox, who is deserving of a renaissance, I think, in Southern lit, especially. He was quite a writer, and he told us, he said, your job is to write a story, And he said, you dig a hole, you throw your main character in the hole, you let them try to crawl out. Every time they get close to the top, you hit them in the head with your shovel and you knock them back down. And that's what you got to do. Don't sit down and try to write symbols, and don't sit down and try to write themes. If they're supposed to appear, they'll appear.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just write an interesting story about a grandfather and his grandson and the son between them,
Yeah.
and what happens is, and I set it on this river that actually is a real river that runs through Kingstree called Black River. And I grew up swimming in Black River. And, I didn't think about the river as a symbol or this thing that carries all the past by people,
Sure.
but I'm starting to get some reviews on it, and they're talking about the symbolism of the river. And I'm going, yeah, right. You got it. You nailed it. But I don't really think about that. Now, having said all that, I do hope that the reader will think about the way, people in your life might revolve around each other, motivated and pushed by the past. What's happened in the past, is going to affect you. And so I hope that, but I really don't. And I'm not trying to be flip at all. I just,
sure.
when I sit down, I think I got to have a really interesting character and an engaging storyline and see where it goes. And yeah.
Well, and like you said, people are going to have their own interpretation of it, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I wasn't even trying to do that, but okay, I'm glad you got
Yeah.
that out of there. Like you can't control what people's interpretation is going to be at the end either.
Yeah. Well, like Bill always said, he said, yeah. And then you go to the cocktail party when your book comes out and they say, oh, I really love the way that you combine this, this theme of man's inhumanity to man with the symbolism of the blah, 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 blah. And he said, you just sit there and you go, exactly. Wow. You're perceptive. And so, yeah, I just, I actually, I'm not the tortured writer. I like making a story. I like making art. And I like sitting down and saying, okay, I've got this guy and this woman and this setting, and what can I have happen to them that moves the story forward in the scene that would be interesting to somebody reading it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listeners, you should definitely go pick up Peace Like a River. It was such a great book. And I haven't read a book recently of like fathers and sons. And I'm thinking as I was reading it, like, have I read one like that? I'm like, I'm sure there's books about fathers and sons out there, but it just maybe hasn't crossed my reading path in a while.
Well, I don't know. I didn't, I didn't really think about it. I was trying to think of some right now off the top of my head, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the writer's name, but Music of the Swamp is the name of the book, and I have to look it up. But that's the one that's got some fathers and sons in it. That's an older novel. Gosh, that's so bad that I can't remember the name.
We'll have it for the show notes.
Okay.
Well, what have you learned about yourself through writing?
What I'm reminded of and what I kind of relearn every time is the importance of place and setting. I mean, it's not just, and I don't think it should ever be just a backdrop for the story. It should be a character, and it should do what characters do. It should reveal something. It should move the story forward. It should be a player in the narrative. And I was really reminded about that with this book when I sat down to do it, because the river does play an important part. And it's if you think about it, you create a world, you build a world, and you drop your characters in it, and they have to react to that world. And I was kind of I was constantly reminded of that again and again as I was doing this one, and then that helped with the next one that's already been done, but I'm getting it, prepping the manuscript right now, but it's in a different place, but the feeling's the same. It's like, you and the voice in your head, the writer voice in your head says you miss an opportunity here for that setting to be important in this scene. you need to emphasize that more. You need to do that better. You
Yeah.
need to do your work better.
Yeah, I'm not a writer myself, but as a reader, and you say it like that, and I think, yeah, I just the people that do that well, I always think of like these books of a strong sense of place. It just enhances the entire novel that you're
Right.
reading.
Well, and and that should be, it's kind of self-evident. And I know if you look at any fiction textbook about, character, setting,
Yeah.
conflict, no, there those, but it's it's so easy to just say, well, the sky's blue, the trees are green, and all right, we've got that. But to have the setting constantly come up as a character
Yeah.
in a piece is fun to do, and it's a challenge of sorts. But I have a good time doing it. I love doing that.
Yeah. If you write, I haven't read some of your other work, but would you try to go travel to a place? Do you think that would enhance that, or would you do, maybe places you've been or have seen already?
I think it's both. I
Yeah,
think sometimes, like, obviously I grew up in this area
sure.
where the collection and this book are set. Um, I a book that's coming out in fall of 26 from the same publisher, Regal House Publishing, is set in North Alabama, where my family's from.
Okay.
But so I spent time there as a kid, but I went back as an adult. I went back, when I was working on this book, and just had my cousin drive me all over Sand Mountain, looking at the cabins and that were falling down and the kudzu growing over them. And I was picking up things like, man, the wind blows up here all the time, doesn't it? And he said, yeah. So,
Yeah,
okay, I'm making a little notes. Okay. So now I've got,
sure.
so I went back and sort of refamiliarized myself with that area. Um, but I'm always amazed by people that can go to some place they've never been, hang out for 3 or 4 days, and then write some amazing novel, and it feels like they've lived their whole lives
Yeah,
there. I mean, that's quite a feat. I don't know if I could do that.
sure. Yeah, I mean, we all work differently, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
amazing what you can pick up and perceive,
yeah,
and some people can do that piece really well.
yeah, yeah.
Well, was there a book that you read that made you want to become a writer?
Oh gosh. Well, yes. I mean, obviously, of course. I'm trying to narrow it down. I mean, I remember reading experiences that I don't know if they it necessarily made me want to become a writer, but it showed me what books can do, how they
Yeah.
can just, basically blow your mind. I remember being in the sixth or seventh grade, and we went to the library at school, and I checked out Robinson Crusoe, and I started it in class. Probably should have been listening, but I started in class, and I went home, and I could not put it down. And I remember, and this is I just love my parents for this, that they they just let me keep reading. They
Yeah.
brought me food. They
I love it.
they didn't make me stop reading, and I read it in one sitting. And I remember, I never forgot that. I remember, oh my gosh, I got to find out what happens to this character on this island. And oh my gosh, there's another person on the island. And then, um, and when you realize that little hieroglyphics on a piece of paper can make you feel a certain way, and can just take over your world for hours, then something happened there at that point. I mean, I remember going,
Yeah.
well, that's pretty cool. And I don't think I consciously went, oh, by God, I'm going to be a writer.
Yeah. But you
But
remember that
I remember that.
experience of that.
I mean, that was, I mean, I don't want to date myself, but that was a long time ago. And I can remember the room, sitting in the room, and my mom bringing down something to eat to the den. But she said, yeah, just keep reading, keep reading. And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah,
As a parent, I think like if I ever saw my kids doing that too, I'd be like, yes, I want to encourage this behavior. So
yeah,
you do you, and I'll bring you
yeah,
whatever you need.
yeah. That's yeah, because that's. I mean, and that's so different than some of the other stuff that will occupy kids these days for hours at a time.
Yeah.
It's just the page, the words on the page. I mean, come on, that's words on a page. That's objective, right? That's just ink and paper.
Sure.
But it makes you can laugh, you can cry. That's subjective. That's emotion. So how do you? It's a miracle that you go from those words on a page to this emotion. And then when you start trying to do that as a writer, I mean, if then you'll never figure it out, you
Sure.
know. But you sometimes you get close to nailing it, and you know, um, and when you're getting close, you feel it. You
Yeah.
go. I mean, when you're writing a scene and you start crying when you're writing, that's when then you think you're getting close, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like as you're talking, I'm like, that's the magic of
Yeah.
books. And I love that as a writer, you feel that as well. Like you can kind of touch that a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I taught at the Governor's taught creative writing for 20 something years, and that's what I would tell students every year. It's like this: you're performing these little minor miracles when you get somebody to feel a certain way by the words you put on the page, and never forget the value of that.
Yeah. I finish every show with, books come into your life when you most need them. And I truly
Right.
believe that. Just like people will do that. And I think, as a writer, you get to do that and you meet people where they're at when you need it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've switched gears to books a little bit, so we're
Okay.
almost halfway to the next half. So let's talk about who you are as a reader and what genres do you enjoy?
I am all over the board. I love I love fiction. I love short stories. I started out and spent a lot of time early in my career writing short stories. I don't write them as much anymore because I've kind of fallen in love with the novel form.
Sure.
But I read short story collections, novels. I'll read, genre, any genre. I mean, like sometimes when I'm not moving my story along enough, I will go pick up a Jack Reacher novel or something and just read 100 pages just to see how that guy moves the story forward.
That fast pace of it.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm getting too bogged down and I'm not moving the story forward enough. I love nonfiction. I've written a memoir. I love. Right now, I'm reading. I know I'm late, way late to the bandwagon on *Sapiens*. That book that's just sort of the history of mankind. I'm reading
Yeah.
that now.
Well,
Um,
that's what happens, right? I feel like life is busy. And so there's books
right.
that I'm like, that has been on my TBR for way too long by the time
Hmm.
I actually get to it. But
Yeah.
we do eventually.
Yeah. And I juggle. I like to. I'll have two or three going at once.
Yeah.
And I'm not sort of anti audiobook at all. I mean, like I'll I'll be listening to one in the car, and I'll have two or three on the nightstand, and so
Yeah. I read very similarly.
yeah. And I'm super excited that I'm gonna have more time to read. Most of my year when I'm teaching, it was spent reading student work.
Sure.
So now I'm gonna have extra hours to read what I want to read.
Yeah. Do
So
you get word fatigue, like where you're maybe don't even want to pick up a book in the evening then after a busy day of maybe editing or writing your own book?
yeah, sometimes, but for me, it's that even if it's, I don't know, there's something about, all right, I'm tired, I'm gonna go to bed, but I'm gonna read 5 or 10 pages. Just
Sure.
it's almost like a prep your brain for going to sleep. But and of course, I may not remember what I read the next day when I look at it. But no, yeah, I do. I get that. I would get that a lot teaching. I would just read a lot of student work because the governor's schools is an art school. So
Right.
we were, I have students were giving us drafts constantly and wanting feedback
Sure.
almost immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were reading pretty much around the clock during the school year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's usually one of my questions is like, how do you fit the reading in? But now you're retired, so now the world
Yeah,
is your
yeah,
oyster in front of
yeah.
you.
I know. I'm like, oh, I gotta pick up on some new stuff here.
Yeah, well, you have been so gracious to bring a book flight with you today. Can you
Yeah.
tell us how you chose these books?
Uh, these I've got three books that are Short novels. This Peace Like a River is a short book. I sat down. I wanted to write a short novel. Kind of in that 60 to 70,000 word range,
Yeah.
a couple hundred pages when it's printed. And before I sat down to write, I thought I'm going to read some short novels that I remember liking from the past. That so I can kind of remind myself how these authors made a really quick impact
Yeah.
in a short space, and their economy of language, but still didn't lose any of the music of the language, didn't lose anything in the narrative. So I picked three that I remembered. One was by a writer named Louise Shivers,
Okay.
and I think she's from South Carolina. No, she was from North Carolina. That's right. And it's called "Here to Get My Baby Out of Jail."
I love
And
the title.
it is it's a kind of a bleak novel. I mean,
Wow.
it's the classic: a stranger comes to town.
Okay.
This sort of mysterious person comes into a small tobacco town and sort of catches the eye of this woman, and bad things begin happening. But it was published in 83,
Okay.
1983.
All
And
right.
another one is Edisto, which is one of my top five favorite books of all time.
Yay. Okay.
It's by Paget Powell, who's a real well-known writer. He's written so many great books, but this was his first novel, and it's set on the coast of South Carolina, Edisto Island. It has a very precocious narrator who is just a voice that I've never read another narrative voice like
I
this
love that.
before. And it was oddly enough published in 1983 too.
Oh man, maybe we're gonna get a book flight
Well,
for that.
wait a minute. You haven't heard the best part here. Okay. The third novel is by Charles Portis, and if you don't know who Charles Portis is, if you go to any writer working and living in the South and you say, name your top three favorite writers, 9 out of 10 will say Charles Portis. He's like a writer's writer, and
Okay.
he's hilarious. You know the book or the movie True Grit?
Yes.
He wrote True Grit.
Okay. Yep.
So he's got that, like, I don't know if you remember the character in True Grit, how funny she was with her delivery of
Yes.
stuff. Anyway, this book is called Norwood.
Okay.
And it was I think it's his first novel, and they made a really bad movie out of it. This book was published in 1966,
Okay.
1983.
Okay.
But I was looking at it last night, and on the first page, I used to put my name in the front of the book, and when I bought it, in 1983.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
So what is going on with what was happening in 1983?
It's a big year for you.
I know. So I immediately started saying, what was I doing? I was in graduate school, and so I was reading just constantly. But anyway, those are the three short novels. I mean, these are novels that you can read in one long sitting or two relatively short sittings, and
Yeah.
they're all different tonally. One Norwood's funny. Edisto is just sort of a virtuoso performance by Paget Powell,
Okay.
and Louise Shivers just it's kind of dark in there some places.
Yeah.
So that's my flight.
Yeah, well, I love that. Thank you so much for bringing that. And I didn't add about Peace Like a River is I flew through it as well because not only was I wanting to know what was going to happen, but even with sometimes I feel like I have so little time to read, but I think I read it in 2 days because I was like carrying it around with me of like, okay, if I can sneak
Oh,
5 minutes in
cool.
here. And so I loved it. And I didn't add that in when we were
Oh,
talking about it, but
well,
thank
thank
you.
you so much.
You're welcome. So, and thank you for bringing that book flight with you today. How
Yeah.
I love to end our show is with our bonus pairings, which are a speed round of questions you can answer really quick. Are
Okay.
you a rereader?
Yes.
Okay.
Every year I reread John Irving, The Water Method Man.
Okay.
And I try to read Ulysses, and it's my exercise in futility. I get into about 150 pages, and I go, nah, I can't do this. So, yeah.
Love it. And then what is one book you've read that has changed your life? Just one. I know there's probably many.
Yeah, one that I remember right off the top of my head is Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
I went to see a reading with William Styron, and he was reading from Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
This was in grad school. went out that night, bought it at a Barnes and Noble, sat down, read through the night, canceled my classes the next day I was supposed to be teaching. And so that novel was pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, I have been working on, it's probably longer than I should admit at this point, but a Century of Great Books challenge where I'm trying to read a book from every year for the past century. And I read Sophie's Choice I don't remember what year that was published, but that was one of my choices.
Oh, yeah.
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 So, and I don't know that I would have maybe come across it without challenging myself to do this.
Yeah. Well, Styron was pretty amazing to hear him read from it.
That alone. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where is your favorite place to read?
My favorite place to read is I've got a chair that I've had for God knows how many years, and it's worn out and the cushions are worn out. But when I sit in it, I think my brain goes, "Oh, you're getting ready to read." And so that's
your reading chair.
And I had it in my office at school because I've brought it home now since I've retired, and it doesn't fit anywhere in the house, but it's going to stay in the house.
Yeah.
It's going to be in the house.
Yeah.
So.
It transports you to another world there.
Yes.
Lastly, what are you reading next?
The book I'm going to read next is Even Cowgirls Get the Blues by Tom Robbins. It's an older book. And the reason is that I've decided I want to go back. You talked about rereading.
Yeah.
I want to go back and read books that were really important to me in the early 80s when I was in grad school and everything. And it was like Tom Robbins and the Milagro Beanfield War by John Nichols and things like that. I want to see if they're now, these many years later, if they strike me the same way. So I'm going to go through. So the next one is going to be Tom Robbins. And plus he's an interesting writer that nobody really reads anymore because it's just such wacky, crazy fiction. But I want to try that.
Yeah, I have been thinking about doing that recently as well for a book that has been my favorite book. It's probably almost 10 years at this point. And I'm like, if I reread it today, would it still hold true? I don't know. But I'm like, I haven't done it yet.
I'm kind of looking forward to this experiment because I have a strange feeling that I'm going to go, in some cases, I might go, what in the world were you thinking? Why did you like this? or it might just be the opposite. And you go, oh, yeah, now I see it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, you'll have to keep me posted how it goes. I'll be interested
right.
to hear. Thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. I know your time is precious and I appreciate all you've given me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all the nice things you said about Peace Like a River.
Thank you. That. I'm glad I got to read it ahead of time. So thank you.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Scott Gould, including his book flight of short novels. We'd love to hear what other books you'd pair with this book flight at bookishflights.com. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.